Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is.
Federal judges should have term limits. They should only be there for 6 to 10 years for an appointment and perhaps be able to be reappointed if a new president wants to reappoint them once. And then that ought to be it. 2 terms for judges. If it's good enough for our presidents, it's good enough for our judges. 2 terms. And you set the terms. I don't care if they're even 10 years each so that they got 20 years on the bench, but that's it. So my point is that you have to make the system, which originally it was made for an understanding of Jeremiah 17:9, that the heart is evil, no man can know it. And therefore, we make the rules and we set the system up knowing that even what we think is a good person, and maybe they serve well for 10 years, they've got evil in their heart that they don't even know is there. So we don't want to give anybody this unaccountable 40 or 50 years in a position of such power.
You know, we're talking about what's happening with the election systems. And we talk about who stood in the way, and it's these judges and these rotted judiciaries and these rotted people. These rotted people have stood in the way of not just elections, but of crime. They've perpetuated it. The system always favors these people that are in power. And the disease that we have and the things that we face with today are a direct result of the institutional rot that we have within our judiciary. It's over 180 times now they have stood against President Trump. Even when President Trump did nothing and something was just, an executive order was set to expire, the kings, the judges, the kings stepped in and said, no, 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 you shall do as we say. You will not let that executive order expire. Promoting and pushing a policy from one term of a president to another, allowing a president to rule by proxy or allowing the ideology that was perpetuated by stolen elections that have been going on for the last decades, allowed that to carry through even when they recognize that this is wrong. We should have term limits on Congress. We should have term limits on the judges. A judge should be kicked to the curb. There should be a group of people from the community that can get together and look at information. And when they see a rotted judge, they should lose their ability to be on the bench. More importantly, they should not have qualified immunity. Why is it that the Congress and judges all have immunity? Oh, and Big Pharma. All the things that are doing harm to our communities and that basically are the traitors to our communities are being allowed to operate with impunity. How is that even possible? I said this before about Ron DeSantis. He's looking to clean up what's happening in the judicial bench in Florida. And frankly, I think we need it. But why is it that everything is happening in Florida? People in California are moving to Florida. People in Colorado moving to Florida. Everyone's moving to Florida. I mean, if you took what's his name, Johnson, he's a congressman. If you took his word for it, when he talked about Guam, he's like, well, if we get too many people on it, it'll just tip over, it'll capsize. It's not true. But if you put that many people in Florida, I got to figure out what's going to happen. But here's what Governor Ron DeSantis is doing. He's moving to have a judge impeached. We have to, just so you know, judges have become the enemy of the people, period. And now they're operating with impunity and doing whatever they want and then standing, and they have layers of it. It's like a crime family all the way up. Let's go ahead and play it.
I appreciate the legislature for passing this. But I will just say to my friends in the Florida House of Representatives, I don't think what you've done is enough. You have the power and you have sufficient numbers in your chamber to impeach this judge, Tiffany Baker. Until you start holding these judges accountable, they are going to continue to find ways to benefit the criminal element. This was an outrage. This was such an easy call to make sure that this guy was put behind bars, and this judge refused to do it, knowing the risks, and the result has obviously been a tragedy. So Florida Constitution vests the House of Representatives with the ability to bring an impeachment against a circuit judge with 2/3 majority. You know, last time I checked, we've got way more than 2/3 of Republicans. Honestly, I think some Democrats would vote to impeach, given what happened in this case.
Well, when we talk about impeaching someone, he says hold them accountable. So let me just tell you it's not enough. You have a judge that let a violent predator out on the street killed a 5-year-old girl. And so accountability for this person is impeachment? No, accountability for this judge should be life in prison. You want to hold Chauvin, Derek Chauvin, up in Minnesota, responsible for a man having 4 times the lethal limit of fentanyl in his system. Lethal limit, 4 times that. Because he held him down, which he didn't do violently. But you want to give that guy 19 years. But you want to take this piece of trash judge who let a violent criminal out on the street that murdered a 5-year-old little girl, and you want to say that the only punishment you have is that you get removed from the bench. No, right? This isn't even real. This isn't even, we're bowing down to the ridiculous. But he knows that the people are pissed. And he's like, oh, let's just talk about accountability. But nobody wants to be the big elephant in the room and say, that's not accountability. That's letting a murderer's accomplice walk free. That judge should serve life in prison. And we have got to come down on these judges as people. I don't care if you get tiki torches and the staffs. I don't care. Judges should not be able to act with impunity and do harm to the community. Yet they continue to do that. So I'm tired of seeing the pain. And that's why I got in the governor's race. But then I was like, okay, governor, so let's say I win the governor's race, which I think I could win. I think I would have won. Why? Because the only people that really hate me are people that are weak. And there's a large majority of the state of Colorado on the Democrat side, the independent side, and the Republican side that are not weak, but they feel like they're being held hostage. So I put my hand in the hat for the GOP chair, party chair in Colorado. And I just put out my 90-day plan for the party. By the way, I've never seen anyone put out a plan. I've never seen anyone, and I did reach out to a couple of the other people that are running for chair as well. You got one that's just a wacky woman that's out there, and they don't like the fact that I use the word retard. And I'm like, well, I'm going to continue to use the word retard because you don't get to tell me, you don't get to own speech. You don't get to sit here and tell me you're for free speech and that you're a part of the Republican Party and you want, and then tell me, oh, it's despicable that you use the retard word. No, I use the retard word because people that are stupid should be called retards. That's the reality. And you shouldn't be able to have people that act outside of the confines of civility and set the limits for civility and then claim that they're a victim because they get called a retard. I call retards retarded because they're retarded. You say, well, I have a disabled, that's not retarded, that's a disabled person. So you're trying to get rid of a word. You're trying to eliminate the word retard. I'm trying to tell you that I'm defining it as stupid people, and you want to take the word because you're like, it hurts people's feelings. So you're calling your kid a retard then? You walk around saying my kid's retarded? No, you say your kid is disabled. And the fact that I'm having this conversation is ridiculous by itself. Anyway, so I put out a 90-day plan. I run a large business. I do a lot of cool stuff. I'm not afraid to speak. I have a tongue, I use it. I have a brain, I use it. But I did put it out there. Let's go put it up. I even put it into a little box and said, here's what I'm gonna do. This is a consolidated executive timeline. There's 3 phases, 1, 2, and 3, 30 day, 60 day, 90 day. And here's what I wrote. Okay, thank you for your patience. I'm working on getting the written 90-day plan out, but I wanted to give you a Gantt that will outline the first 90 days. We're working on the financial plans, the org chart, the SEC monthly state of the state, output, or I'm sorry, outline, I misspelled that. The Legacy 64 Republican Party card-carrying donor levels, focus groups and surveys, recruitment strategies, and data development models. We have a ton to get done. Then there's this thing we have to do, that is supporting the candidates. Stay tuned for the strategy. We can still win in November, and we will. So what I'm basically doing is putting it out there. I had a couple people that said, well, you know, that came over here, that I call them the Marx people, that said, you can't support a candidate. I said, I'm not the chair yet. I'm gonna talk until I can't talk. So absolutely. I'm gonna continue to talk and support the candidates that I want to support until I'm chair. When you elect me chair, I'll be Switzerland. But the thing in Colorado is, if we don't restructure the party and get the election systems under control, so let me just tell you what I'm going to plan on doing as the chair. Actually, I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to make a recommendation that here are the bylaw changes, here are the recommendations of how we're going to have a code of conduct. And if you sit outside the code of conduct, I'm going to build different committees that are going to deal with people who are not nice. See, I'm just not nice to people that aren't nice to me. If you're not nice to me and you want to come punch at me, I'm going to punch back. You don't expect me not to punch back? Well, then don't punch at me. If you want to ask me a question, you want to debate, I'll debate you. But don't think that you're above reproach and I have to put up with you coming and spending all your time looking me up and getting over here and saying, okay, now I'm going to take some shots at you. I'm going to continue to punch back. But I want to tell you that if we restructure the party and we do what I have in the written plan, by the way, if you can go to my Facebook page, the written plan is out. The 90-day written plan is out. But that's not the written plan. There's a written plan. There's a link to a written plan that's on my Facebook. If we can you can put it up, or you can actually just put the link in the deal so people can go to it. I put out this plan and I said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this right here. And I'm getting a lot of positive feedback from it because nobody's ever seen a plan. At the same time, I've got people on this in these rhino groups, these establishment mean girl groups that are calling people and threatening delegates and telling them, you better not vote for Joe Oltmann. And I'm thinking to myself, what is wrong with you? Like I'm already out there finding, we don't even have an office, by the way. The state party for the state of Colorado doesn't even have a functioning office. They let it go. All we have is $260,000 or $50,000 of bills from a lawyer that happens to be Britta Horn's lawyer, who is the chair now that is stepping down. That's it. That's all. We just have debt. And a phone number goes to nowhere and no place that anyone in the state. So the function of the Republican Party in the state of Colorado is in essence dead. And you have people that are rhinos in the state of Colorado that are calling people saying, don't let Joe be the chair of the Colorado GOP. And the people that are lined up to do this, very good people. But they've never led anything. So they don't know how to fix it. They don't know how to call a donor and say, give me your money. They don't know how to build legacy plans on how you could create longevity revenue by giving Republicans the ability to speak. They don't know anything about going and recruiting independents and I call them ethical Democrats, people that believe the same thing we do, but have been stuck in this thing of I'm a Democrat, not understanding why, because they haven't been able to define what it means to be a Republican or a Democrat. So I want to do this. This is this just shows you how bad the policies are on the left. And this is why we have the biggest opportunity in Colorado we've ever had, not to elect even a governor, but to clean it up and actually create a functioning organization that can serve the people's interests. That for the first time ever, it could be the People's Party. It could be a model. Bill, a friend of mine on Facebook, who I've never met other than seeing him on videos, said, Joe, your model could be used across the entire country as a model for how we can capture the American people, because they all feel like they're left behind. So we get rid of the John Thunes, get rid of the Mike Johnsons, all the people that are working against us that basically say, hey, sit down, slave, we know what's better for you. Put all that aside, and we actually have a People's Party, not one that has an R or a D. It's just based on ethics and morals, and not, cutting off kids' penises and doing all sorts of weird stuff that we're doing right now and justifying under the idea that it's normal. It's not normal. But here's a New York finance guy that's moving to Florida, and this is just being interviewed on the street. This is fascinating. Go ahead and play it.
What's going to happen is this part of the country is going to go completely Marxist communist. That's why the New York Stock Exchange is moving to Dallas, Texas. Everything in the financial world, which I consult to, we're moving everything down to Texas and Florida. We're done with New York. There will be no entry-level jobs for college students this year when they get out of school. This is going to go Marxist communist. My prediction, 2 years, New York will look like Detroit.
Like Detroit.
Have you been to Detroit lately?
No, I have not, but I have people that have been, and it's very, very rough.
Well, Detroit used to be the auto industry.
Yes.
And it was a vibrant, thriving city. Anyone could move there and become middle class very quickly, regardless of where you came from. You get a good job, become part of the middle class. Now you go to Detroit, there's nothing. The auto industry got sucked out. Wall Street and finance is being sucked out of New York City right now. All my friends that own hedge funds, they're in Palm Beach. We've left. I'm the 1%. Okay, I'm the 85,000 people that pay all the taxes in New York because our income exceeds $1 million. Well, I left. I moved my businesses and my residence to Florida, so Mandami can't steal from me. He can't steal from me in Florida.
He can't steal from me. Now, here's a prediction that I have. In the United States, over history, the same thing has happened over time. Same thing happened in the fall of Rome. Same thing happened in World War II. There will be massive there'll be massive violence by normal people, by this guy, that are like, they can't steal from me. You know what happens when people get caged, when they get pushed in the corner, like they're doing in California, and saying we're going to take 10% of your house that you sell right off the top? It's an exit tax when you leave California. We put it in account. If you leave, we're taking your money. There's going to be violence. People are tired of being slaves to people who are pieces of trash. Mandami is a piece of trash. Communism has killed people. People that feel like they're going to get killed start killing people. And if you think that I'm advocating for it, I'm not. I'm being honest with you about where we are. And you have to be honest about it too. And this isn't about violence. It's about accountability. It's about consequences. And there are serious consequences when you let the most retarded people in the world run things. You have people that are kids that are raped and women that are trafficked, which our guest today is going to talk about. But President Trump went to the Supreme Court hearing today to hear oral arguments over birthright citizenship. Now, you already know that Kanjani Brown is not 100% is going to be on the dissent, because this retard can't even tell you what a woman is. But here's the U.S. Solicitor General John Sauer talking about the fact that this has opened us up to what we have today, which is replacement theology. Go ahead and play it.
Based on Chinese media reports, there are 500 birth tourism companies in the People's Republic of China whose business is to bring people here to give birth and return to that nation.
Having said all that, you do agree that that has no impact on the legal analysis before us?
I think it's, I'd quote what Justice Scalia said in his Hamdan dissent, where their interpretation has these implications that could not possibly have been approved by the 19th century framers of this amendment. I think that shows that they've made a mess, their interpretation has made a mess of the provision.
Well, it certainly wasn't a problem in the 19th century.
No, but of course, we're in a new world now, as Justice Alito pointed out, where 8 billion people are one plane ride away from having a child who's a U.S. citizen.
Well, it's a new world. It's the same Constitution.
It is, and As Justice Scalia said, I think in the case that Justice Alito was referring to, you've got a constitutional provision that addresses certain evils, and it should be extended to reasonably comparable evils. He said that about statutory interpretation. I think the same principle applies here, and I think we quote that in our brief.
Thank you. Justice Thomas, anything further?
Here's my problem. We have a justice system that caters to what they think the backlash would be from other people that are ideologically driven. It's fear-driven. It's driven by people who don't care about the Constitution. These are not people that would ever serve the American people in any capacity. I want to bring Baz in if I can. So Bazzel Baz is a former CIA Special Operations Officer. And let me just tell you what this guy does. This is the real, if Victor Marx was a real person, this is who he'd be. He'd be Bazzel. Or he'd be Brian at Gray Bull Rescue. Baz is he's the real deal. He has probably got one of the best temperaments out there until you try to hurt a child, and then you might not want to be near Baz. He has an extensive background as an author, public speaker, life coach, and I follow him from the sidelines pretty extensively. He sends me stuff all the time, and he also is a commenter on terrorism, homeland security, child protection, and he's done stuff even for the left. I mean, he doesn't care. He doesn't care if you'll give him an audience to talk about how pedophiles are bad. He'll talk to you. He'll also do great harm to you if it comes down that he has to protect the child, and he'll do so, and he will pray for you afterwards. I'm sure of it. But before I bring on this last piece, I want to bring him in so he can understand what we're about to talk about. So bring him in. Baz, welcome to the show.
Hey, Joe, it's good to be with you again. Thank you very much.
Did I describe you adequately? Is that?
Well, I'll tell you what, you do better than my bio. I'll tell you, I'm going to have you write it next time. I might even have to run for governor of Colorado based on that, man.
Bro, come on out. I will literally, I mean, you would be way better, I promise you. I had to get out of the race because I needed to fix the GOP, and I felt like as soon as Britta stepped down, I was like, I could fix it for history, for going into the future, fix the ethos, fix all of it. So, but yeah, you would be welcome. We would welcome you to come here and to run for governor.
Thanks, man. Well, I appreciate it. Sounds like you're handling it just fine yourself. So we'll support you. You know that. I know, absolutely. So I want to talk about this in particular. Go up if you would, please. There we go. And I'm bringing this up because there has been an immense amount of pain that has been caused to our whistleblowers. And I think you're familiar with this because you have friends that have really put it all on the line. Kyle Seraphin was a FBI whistleblower. Steve Baker worked for The Blaze. He came out about this pipe bomb deal, right? You're familiar with this, right? A little bit, yeah. And Steve Baker went to Washington, D.C. and mysteriously had a heart attack right afterwards. And they literally tried, I almost feel like it has that same vibe that we dealt with years ago with another, what was his name? He had a heart attack and died. Where's my brain to freeze up on me like that? Anyway.
It's okay. You can just attribute it to the Clintons.
Yeah.
That's a good example. The Clinton suicide program or whatever. Yeah, people mysteriously. Yeah, dying.
Yeah. I mean, he just, it's a. But I want to put this up because they attacked Steve. Kardashian Patel did. Dan Bongino. Dan Bongino blocked so many people as a result of this pipe bomb deal. And Kyle Seraphin put this up. Go ahead and put it up with us on the thing here. The FBI covered up a current CIA's employee failed polygraph failure to two simple questions. Did you place those pipe bombs? Did you place those pipe bombs that evening? This is an actual deal where this woman, who they knew they had her dead to rights, who filed a lawsuit against Steve Baker and other people, was asked two questions in their polygraph, and to both questions was found to be untruthful. Baz, real harm has come by Kash Patel and Dan Bongino covering up for a CIA operator who worked in the DC police that placed pipe bombs, and they covered up for it, even though they knew for a fact that she was guilty of placing those pipe bombs. But she was promoted onto the CIA from the DC police. What do you make of this?
Yeah, that's a great question, Joe. I'll tell you that I'm pretty much intertwined in a few things that go on up there at the White House through just various contacts and relationships. And I will tell you, across the board, with most of us that are fighting hard to keep the republic safe, there are a lot of things that are real mysteries to us right now. We're sitting back at the 14,000-foot level and asking a lot of questions. For example, Charlie Kirk's assassination, right? Why was the FBI's stupid narrative, which is falling apart, and even the latest narrative is falling apart? I can tell you that I know for a fact that there are people that know exactly who performed that task. And that information has been relayed to the White House. And why they are not acting upon it, I don't know. There are,
whoa, time out. You're saying that we know how Charlie Kirk was killed?
Yeah, there are people that know exactly how he was killed.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, I don't know if I can answer it right now, but sure, go ahead.
Was one of the things that they were investigating a patented gun that is made out of Texas?
I can't answer that, but what I will tell you is this, Joe. Everything that is coming up and everything is coming up to play right now. I will tell you this, there is an innocent man sitting in Utah that was not responsible. Okay, now, doesn't mean he didn't have a part in it. Doesn't mean that someone didn't run him to be a part of it. Someone obviously had to task him to do certain things, but I think the American people are just the common sense patriots are going, this doesn't add up. None of it, it's all stupid. It's, hey, to use your word, it's retarded. So what I'm getting at here is that there's a lot happening in DC. I still believe that 47 is on top of his game. He's an amazing strategist. I don't want to try to second guess him because he's really good at what he does. But I will tell you,
we got to help him. We got to help him.
Well, we do help him, and I have in one of my podcasts. I told him, I said, sir, if you're listening to this, just let me explain this. You are probably the most brilliant business strategist of our time, but I will tell you what you're not great at. You're not great at defending yourself against the clandestine community. And this community, which was run by Brennan and Burns and Clapper and all those people, and still people that are surrounded, the president is surrounded by, because we know they communicate, and the FBI does too, and they're not acting upon it, have overthrown governments. They put presidents in place, they remove presidents. So, why he hasn't removed certain people, that's a mystery to us as well.
Well, it's a detriment.
Right now,
it's a huge
there's some odd. What's that?
It's a detriment.
Well, it is a detriment, and like I said, I'm not trying to second guess him. He may be getting ready to cut all their heads off here pretty soon. I don't know. He may be collecting enough evidence. It goes back even to, I get questioned daily because we deal with anti-trafficking, the Epstein files. I don't know what's going on with the Epstein files. I don't know, but I do know this, is that if there's not any accountability soon, I think the American people are already fed up with it. And I think they're going to take business into their own hands, to be honest with you. I, too, am not advocating violence, but I am predicting that they will reach out and they will go after the people that harm children, and they will go after the people in government that are not doing their job to protect the American public and protect those children. Or in other words, the people that are covering up for it, I think they need to understand this. This is a very serious issue. This is not something we're just going to get past. And people have long memories. And so if you are a government employee responsible for bringing justice to America and you fail to do it, I would say that you need to be looking over your shoulder for the rest of your life, because someone in the American public are going to go after those people for not doing it. Just like you were talking about these judges. If I can touch on this real quick, Joe, for you, because you're going to be instrumental here in Colorado. When I addressed CPAC last year, one of the things I said, I told them, I said, look, I'm not a politician. I don't have the luxury of corruption and negotiation. I'm just a war fighter. It's been in the trenches for 34 years saving kids. But this I do know is that this issue of child sex trafficking it's not a political issue. It's crimes against children. So I do believe that some immunity is required from our decision makers, our lawmakers, so that they can't be sued for everything that they decide on. However, when those decisions include crimes against the American people and against children, I think they should be held responsible for those crimes, very much like you're talking about this judge. So, for example, I introduced what's called the Congressional Accountability Act, and no one has really moved on it. I can't get a sponsor for it, but it basically says this, is that any American citizen whose children are harmed by an illegal immigrant in this country, they not only have the right to bring criminal charges against that illegal alien, but they have the right to bring charges against any senator or congressman that voted for the open border policy. It's common sense. If you and I are at your house and I have a rabid dog outside and I open the door and that dog comes in and mauls you, Joe, I'm complicit in that crime. Same thing. If we can't get it done because we and the American people and as Coloradans have sat back and been holding the bag for decisions that are made by politicians because they have some type of immunity. So in Colorado, if I can't get this pushed in at the federal level, I would push it in Colorado the same way. I'd say, you know what, just like you said, if there's a judge that let someone off the hook and he went out and murdered a 5-year-old, that judge should go to prison as well. That was a decision that judge made. I think those days are over. I don't think immunity should be given to a judge for that. Now, there are other things that, of course, immunity can apply to, but it doesn't apply to federal crimes, for example, against children or other crimes that are committed. So this is a beginning. And I think to be honest with you, Joe, I think it's a good blueprint to use even in the state of Colorado, to be honest with you.
Well, you know, I'm all about blueprints, and you know that I have quietly been a part of the child sex trafficking, blowing that up for a long time. I built that program, and there's things that I know about people that were caught doing things like downloading pictures and everything else that were a result of the program that I built. And I've never bragged about it. I've just did the job because I hate people that would hurt a child. Actually, I just hate people that hurt people, right? Yeah. But hurting a child is different. It's just a different type of, but it's all connected. It's all connected.
Yeah, it is all connected.
If you take the stealing of elections, if you take the trafficking of children, you take the what's happening in the judiciary and the people that have been honeypotted and have been captured by their perversions, and the ability to actually stand up for perversions and to justify them, which they do on both sides of the aisle, Democrat and Republican. And then we talk about the killing of Charlie Kirk, who was probably one of the most beautiful souls you're ever going to find, right? He's just I didn't agree with him on everything because he didn't, but he was waking up to certain things and seeing certain things and questioning what happened on October 7th in Israel and looking at, AIPAC's, grip on us in certain areas. And you could agree with it or disagree with it. It doesn't matter to me. But you have people that they've literally just eliminated because they're like, oh, don't like that person, don't like that person, don't like that person. And so they're walking around just killing people with impunity. It's all connected. Epstein, connected. Yeah. I mean, Virginia Giuffre, let's just say it. She committed suicide because she's like, I have all the information. These people should go to prison for the rest of their life. They trafficked me as a child. They raped me as a child. And nothing for 20 plus years.
Yeah. Accountability is our biggest issue. If there was one thing the American people are screaming for right now, and it is exactly that. More than anything, more than gas prices, more than a good economy, they're screaming for accountability right now because we're seeing no justice in our country. And we are a country of laws, but we're also supposed to be a country of justice. And, on Charlie's issue, I think that the American people should look at one thing and one thing only that President Trump said at the memorial service. And he said, Charlie Kirk could have been the next president of the United States. 100%. That's a very big statement. It's a very big statement. So then we ask ourselves, who doesn't want Charlie Kirk to be the next president of the United States? We start narrowing it down there. You know, we look at stuff like also, you know, that we're not hearing about, which of course, through just basic, not even attrition, just incremental tactics is what we call it, where you bleed something out long enough over the course of 2 generations and they forget about it, they don't care about it. So look at John Bolton being arrested and all the boxes that were picked up and who John Bolton was associated with, and we haven't heard anything about that. What's the FBI doing about that? I will tell you now, because I have friends inside the FBI, the level of corruption in the Bureau has not been handled yet, even to this day. There are still people that are on, whatever you want to call it, the left side of the aisle, so to speak, that favored under Brennan, under Obama, under under a lot of levels of corruption. And I have these conversations with them sometimes weekly, and they go, it hasn't been cleaned up. I don't know how we're functioning. I even had one retired FBI officer, and he's very well known in the Bureau. And he said to me, he goes, you know, sadly, after I retired, I realized that I have been working for the largest legal crime organization in the United States. And he goes, sometimes I don't even want to take my retirement check because of all the things I know that we did and that we did were real illegal. Now, I don't think that means every FBI agent. But, you know, the people at the top that run the organization and keep things compartmented, there's a lot going on. And then when I look at, and I go back to this one thing, I know we're I don't want to beat a dead horse, but, and I'm not going to point fingers at who, but as an organization itself, when they came out with that stupid narrative about Charlie Kirk's assassination, it fell apart on day one. I mean, like, what were you not thinking? There's like 1,000 cameras out there, right? And you're trying to tell the American people this one narrative, and nobody's buying it because we're all watching it. And now they're, you know, what do we hear? What's the new narrative? You know, the latest thing I think yesterday was now one of the attorneys in Utah said, now we all of a sudden realize that the bullet that killed Charlie doesn't even come from that same weapon, right? So why is it that? Yeah, go ahead.
No, keep going. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
So
Keep going.
You know, that's okay. You bring up questions like, wait a minute, I didn't think initially the FBI said they didn't find a round, and then there was this other thing. Well, there was a round lodged in his neck, and then there was one thing after the and then this guy jumped off the roof with the Mauser stuck in his trousers, and we're watching him jump off the roof and his knees are bending. And I mean, come on, you know, I think this ranks right up there, which is interesting. Ranks right up there with the JFK assassination. Everybody trying to convince us that Lee Harvey Oswald was the only shooter there. And as a former CIA officer, having seen some documentation, we know that's not true. We know that's absolutely not true. We know who was involved. We know the agency was involved. We know the mafia was involved. We know there was more than one shooter. We know all these things. But yes, this is like 40 years later we learned this. The American people don't want to learn about this corruption 40 years later. We're not going to buy it. You know, and I think that the American people, you know, God bless them, they want to do the right thing. They want the legal system to work for them. But it's not. It's not working for them. This ranks right up there with all the chemtrail stuff, you know, that they're saying, well, this stuff's not going to kill you. And yet it is killing us. You know, it ranks right up there with pesticides. So we're on our food that's killing us. And people like Bill Gates having a free hand to do whatever he wants to block out the sun, and Klaus Schwab. And you ask, well, why isn't the federal government protecting us? Who's in bed with who? And the reason is and I'm coming full circle here, Joe, you're exactly right. Child sex trafficking has cross-pollinated with terrorism, with bad banking, with the chemtrail stuff, with special relationships and favors being done. Even if you look at the list of the number of senators that have their finances handled by BlackRock, and we take it all the way back to when the open border situation happened, and all the night flights coming in on the airline that was resurrected by BlackRock and Vanguard, it's conflict of interest at best.
Well, I want to talk about what you just said about the chemtrails, because this was a cut on They're Killing You. This is a video series you did on chemtrails, toxins, radioactive material, pathogens, all the things that are really killing people. I mean, and they're doing it on purpose. We are literally the human guinea pigs for these really diabolical people. Would you agree?
Oh, I absolutely. Yeah, knowing what I know now, there was one time when things would be done, and then I see people would talk about DARPA had a hand in it or somebody else had a hand in it. I go, maybe not, maybe not. Now, for a fact, because we have so many outspoken scientists and geoengineers and just really good people with a moral code, you can't argue with these people. It all ranks right up there with when we had all those great scientists going, the COVID vaccine is going to kill you. And guess what? We lost a lot of people because of that. Fauci hasn't even been put in prison for that. And I'm hoping 47 will do something about that. Or I hope somebody will go have a talk with Fauci.
I would agree with you 1,000%. I want to play this. This is from your series. So let's play this about chemtrails specifically. Let's play this. We'll be right back for your thoughts on it.
Sure. Part one of They're Killing You, from a Common Sense Patriot. Multiple analysis carried out by reputable scientists have verified the presence of the following elements in the chemtrails: barium, aluminum, radioactive thorium and caesium, copper, titanium, silicone, lithium, cobalt, lead, ethylene dibromide, and several pathogenic agents. This is in theory. These are the facts. Common sense tells us that what goes up must come down. And what comes down on the land and all of its inhabitants. Don't take my word for it. Start with geoengineeringwatch.org. Now, which of you would be willing to stick your nose in a nebulizer dispensing barium and aluminum, radioactive thorium and caesium, copper, titanium, silicone, lithium, cobalt, lead, ethylene dibromide, pathogenic agents, and bet you don't die or end up with some rare illness such as tumors or Parkinson's disease or cardiac dysfunctions that causes deterioration in the body? It's common sense. The same common sense backed by science that proved the COVID vaccines were deadly. That too is now a fact.
Baz, what we just heard was you talking about things that I'm going to now tell everyone what I found in the water. Barium, bromide. What was the first one?
Well, there's aluminum, barium.
It was something else.
Ethylene bromide.
Ethylene bromide.
Yeah.
So we had samples sent to us from all over the country, water samples, because we had all this stuff that was happening where water was just falling in places that it was just, and so we had it tested. And then I got a phone call. It said, "Where'd you get this water?" Not from the place that we sent it to get tested, from someone on the outside that said, "Why are you testing this water?" And so I picked up the phone and called the place that's testing. I go, "Why are you telling people that I'm having the water tested?" And they're like, "Well, it was pretty odd. You're asking us to test this water. And you had sample 1, sample 2, sample 3, sample 4, right?" And I was like, "Look, I'm just curious. I'm just curious what's in the water." And the things, aluminum was one of the biggest things that was in there. But they asked all these questions. And what was different about this is depending on where you went in the country and where the water fell, you had different levels of this aluminum and bromide, right? And so now I'm trying to figure out what to do with the information and wait for another water deal so I can say, okay, now send me more water so that we can actually prove this. This is just water on the outside. And look, I spent like $1,600 on these water tests. It was not cheap, right? But I wanted to see, is it real? And it turns out, you're right. Either that, or we just have aluminum just hanging out in the thing, and it's just falling down on us like just in the water.
Yeah, we are right. It's when you look at it, just ask our audience. Did you vote for chemtrails? Did you vote for geoengineering? No. Did Congress pass a law that said we could do that? No. It's just common sense. It's not natural, and it is poison. It's the same fight that we fight now with people putting pesticides on our food. And it is killing you. It will give you cancer. This is not an argument that anybody can win. We know that. Scientists have told us that. Physicians tell us that. It's just like I said, who's willing to stick their nose in the nebulizer and breathe in all this stuff and go, I'm not going to die from it? You will die from it. So I think couple of my concerns are this. You know what? Man doesn't control what God gave us. He gave this to us: clean water, clean food, clean air. That's a gift from God, and that no man should be able to control that. Number one. And here's from a national security standpoint, and I'm going to tell you, you know this, I'm a former counterterrorism officer, and I can remember doing predictability studies, Joe, and watching the trends amongst, a ton of different terrorist organizations to figure out what they were going to do next. And that's how we kept America safe. So I know a little bit about what I'm talking about. And there's probably 1 million people out there who would agree with me in that. If you can spray an entire nation, and God forbid, look at what's happening in Colorado, Joe. I wake up to clear blue skies. Next thing I know, we've got chemtrails, and the air quality sucks. I mean, the cloud cover blocks out the sun. We know we have to have sun. I mean, it just makes our state look horrible, actually. And I don't remember anybody voting to have chemtrails over Colorado either. Maybe I missed it. Maybe legislators did vote that in somewhere, and I just missed it somewhere along the way. But if you have the ability to spray an entire nation with these chemicals, in the wrong hands, you have the ability to spray biological chemicals that will kill off entire populations. And so for those that are listening that think, well, the aluminum's not so bad, well, this is not so bad, let me explain something to you. In our Constitution, it talks about what people have to do when all of a sudden a bad government takes over and tries to destroy them. Okay, our founding fathers were pretty smart about that. And so I would submit to you that is what's happening right now. People like Bill Gates and Klaus Schwab and George Soros, who keep talking about depopulation of a nation or the world, they're dead serious about that. And so all it takes is the wrong thing being sprayed in the air, and guess what? You get a disease and you die, or you die instantly. And I think America needs to wake up to that. We're not at a time where it's a maybe. It's happening. Look around you. The question is, what are you going to do to stop it? Well, I don't think passing a law is going to be fast enough or going to stop it. And so most of us in the discussions that I have around America about this issue on chemtrails, this is how I've had it explained to me by a number of people, and I agree with them. They say, you know what, this is no different than if somebody walks into my house with a gun and tries to kill me and my family. I have a right to defend myself. That's the law. So now I've got people trying to kill me and my family by spraying things in the air. I have the right to defend myself and do whatever it takes to make sure that doesn't happen to me and my family. And you know what? I kind of agree with them, to be honest with you, Joe.
Bro, we have talked a little bit about this, and I've been accused of everything in the world, from inciting violence by talking about accountability to, I have an immense rage when it comes to people smiling and doing things like this, dropping chemicals on people and causing great harm, smiling and letting people out to rape and murder 5-year-old little girls. I mean, these are people that are smiling while doing huge amounts of harm to our community. And yet they tell us that we can't be violent and that violence is the answer, and you can't call for violence when violence is committed against us in unspeakable ways. It's as if we're in Auschwitz and our sky has become the gas chamber, and they tell us to go outside and they kill us. I mean, there's no difference between what I'm saying, between killing millions of people inside of a gas chamber and what they're doing to us right now. Tell me what the difference is.
Yeah, well, why did Ron DeSantis say there can't be any more chemtrails over Florida? Remember, they passed legislation for that. And yet, what's interesting, I was just in Florida recently, and they start spraying off the coast, knowing that the winds will blow it in over Florida, and or they're flying at 40,000 feet where you can't see it, or they wait for a cloudy day and they still spray it. So if Governor DeSantis is listening to this, I would say, I don't think people are following the law over there in Florida. But with that said, look at the number of states, and you might have to correct me, Joe, on this. I thought there were 32 states that outlawed chemtrails over their states. I think that's it. And the question is, why are other states allowing it? Here's a bigger question, and you know this. You follow the money, you follow the crime. Find the crime, right? Who's making money off of this? Like, for example, in Colorado, let's ask the question, who in Denver, legislators and other people are making money off of screwing up our skies here in Colorado? You know, when you have things that fall and it's fake snow, I don't know, maybe it's like, well, you know, tourism is a big thing in Colorado and we just got to keep the slopes full of snow, you know, but it affects more than just the ski slopes. It affects everything. It affects our water. You know, that snow that lands on the Rockies, that runoff, that goes into the Colorado River. It goes down here in Loveland. It goes in Fort Collins. It goes all over the place. And so all of those bad chemicals are going into our water system, unless somebody in the state can show me that they have some magic ability to filter out all of those things. And I can tell you right now, they do not. And I think you know that, I know that. And so they're just hoping people will ignore it. Or, as it is with most people in our nation, they go, well, somebody must know it. Somebody must be doing something. It's kind of like us with child sex trafficking. We talk about it, and everybody thinks somebody's doing. Well, we are, and there are a number of NGOs, but the communities aren't doing it. And so what we have are sometimes useful idiots, or, which is historically proven, we have more sheep that are willing to go to the slaughter than we do those that are willing to stand up and fight for what is right. That's the way it's always been. You know, look, you and I have talked about this. Look at the founding of this nation. 3% of the colonists, that's it.
Yeah.
3% of the colonists fought for this country, not all 13 colonies. And so here we are again. It's only 3% fighting. You and other good people, you know, the 3%ers.
So we talk about the 3%ers, and they got locked up over J6, and they weren't even there, right? People that weren't even
they weren't even there,
up, right? So there's a genuine fear in leadership. One, that we get the elections squared away, and that people's voice finally gets heard again, right? And we start repealing all the stuff that they've done to line their pockets. Two, they're deathly afraid that as we take this back, that we're going to hold them accountable, and that there'll be mass hangings because it's treason against the people. And three, they're afraid that the big businesses, the technocracy and the big pharma are going to be held accountable for the work that they did against our people to hurt our children. I'm talking everything from autism all the way down to turbo cancers to really bad things that have happened to our children. And frankly, we're at are we not, Baz, are we not at the precipice right now of something really monumental happening, where basically we just go ham and say we know who they are? I mean, isn't that a fear that,
Yeah, you know what? We are, and I'll tell you, Joe, I think they should be afraid, because you know what? If I were put in a position of authority, I'm going to let you know. I would hold them accountable. Now, I don't know if they're going to be hung with a short rope from a tall tree, but I'll tell you what, if they think they're going to get away with it, it's not happening, because that's not the example we set for future generations.
Yeah.
Future generations need to know, if you do bad things are going to happen to you. So yes, they have a reason to be afraid, and I think it's pretty accurate too. You know, we're not going to go, oh, you know, we're so sorry that you screwed us over, that you arrested us, that you weaponized things against us. No, we have a memory. And for those people that did it, you better bet your bottom dollar that we're going to come after you. So there shall be no mercy. You know, it's not going to happen. You're not going to do this to us, And we're going to make sure that you don't do it to future generations. You're not going to do it to our kids or our grandkids. It's not going to happen that way. So
Baz, people don't know how impactful you've been across this country. And you do a very terrible job of bragging about yourself, but I'm going to brag about you for a minute. You've done some incredible work saving children. And you've done so, and you were also a part of the apparatus of the CIA. So you know Brian over at Grable, right? Rescue.
Yeah. I don't know him personally, but I know who he is. Yeah.
I mean, he talks highly of you. You talk. You guys know you. This is the world you're in, right? This is real work of saving women and children, trafficking victims across the country, right? I went and I watched something that you did. You had a March 21st appearance where you were on with Emerald Robinson, and it's still. You sent me the video. I hadn't seen it, and I was like, I got to get you on. We got to talk about this. We got to talk about this. But you connected Epstein files to the fraud, government corruption, the funding of trafficking, and you talked about the files that you've seen that the public has not seen, and what the effect of that would be. So, tell everyone, like, what. I mean, it's absolute evil, but how evil? Like, what are we dealing with here?
Well, when it comes to child sex trafficking, children have been used as a commodity for a long time to leverage people, or to, particularly when it comes to rape of children, to basically get an individual to submit to your will, meaning whatever it is, a politician, doctor, pastor, whatever it may be. And then there's those groups that just do it because they're perverted. But, child sex trafficking is run by a criminal enterprise. And there are a number of people who we know who they are that run that criminal enterprise. And as I mentioned earlier, it has cross-pollinated with everything from terrorism to drugs to, weapons, and the list goes on and on and on. Now, when you hear people say something like, well, this is a $350 billion criminal enterprise when it comes to trafficking children, I listen to that, and I always try to come from just the third grade level. There's common sense. And so I ask myself, I say, well, if you know it's that much money, that means you're tracking the money. And if you're tracking the money, then you know who's exchanging hands. And if you know who's exchanging hands, then why aren't you arresting them? And no one can answer that. They can't answer it out of Washington. They can't answer it at the state level. They just can't answer that question because they don't know. They just want they want to present the wow factor. They're trying to somehow get people on board to say, wow, this is big business. This is dangerous. And I always ask people, what if it was just one job? What if it only was $1? Would you still be involved in it? So the level of corruption, my gosh, Joe, I got to tell you, I thought I knew how bad it was years ago. And over 34 years now of having better access and having a really robust intel platform that literally outperforms sometimes some 3-letter agencies, to be honest with you. Because we do have former intel officers that are godly men that do believe in the Republic and keeping an eye. They're the watchmen, so to speak. Having the opportunity to look into certain files, it's like going after 100 Goliaths, to be honest with you. And while never being discouraged, because I know ultimately God's in charge of all this stuff, I just have to define success as one child at a time and pray that God will let us be his hand of justice when the time is right, to be honest with you, because I have no tolerance. I have zero tolerance, very much like yourself, for anybody that rapes a child or traffics a child or even grooms a child. I have no tolerance for corruption. I have no tolerance for lying, cheating, stealing, or tolerating those who do. You know, I believe that we should be transparent and upfront. And when I hear things like, and I'm not pointing the finger at Pam Bondi, I don't even know Pam up close. I just know her from a distance. But when she said one thing like, you know, if we were to release all the names on the Epstein files, our government would collapse. Well, then guess what? Let it collapse. Because I'm here to tell her and everybody else, we have people like yourself and other people that will step up to the plate. So that's like instilling fear in the American people. That's an excuse. And I'm not buying it. You know, be transparent. Hold those people accountable for what they did, okay? Now, it doesn't mean that everybody on the list is guilty of raping a child. And I think we have to really do some investigative work to make sure we don't assassinate the character of people that are not guilty of it. But at the same time, when you know who's guilty, I think you have to go after those people. And I don't care, and forgive me, Mr. President, you know, I have so much honor and respect for what you do. But I don't care if they're your friends, because if they're your friends wouldn't rape children. I don't care which senator says, well, my friends will be discovered. Then guess what? They're not very good friends, and maybe you need to keep company with somebody else. You know, these are the future of our country. These are our children. And I believe that there has to be a priority here when it comes to our children and when it comes to accountability. If we don't stop it now, it will continue until we turn into Sodom and Gomorrah. And I think that we, the people, even starting in your own communities, I'm seeing some great things. You know, I'm going on Instagram and I'm seeing people being arrested. So I know something's being done around the country. You know, pastors are being arrested. Some corrupt law enforcement are being arrested. Doctors are being arrested. But it will always go back to what you mentioned earlier, Joe, about this judge. It doesn't matter if you arrest them, but when you get a judge that lets them go, this is where it's wrong. I can't figure out why in the state of Colorado we don't have the death penalty. Well, let me stop myself. I do understand why. I understand why we don't have the death penalty against people that rape children in our country, in our state here, because most of the people that won't vote towards that are pedophiles themselves. That's what I believe. Or they're sympathetic to children being raped. Anybody who's been in the trenches and knows the damage that's done to children, that they die every single day of their life once they've been sexually abused, would understand that you have to put an end to this and you have to draw the line in the sand and do it now. So for everybody in Denver that voted not to have the death penalty in our state, then I think they're sympathetic to it. And guess what? In my mind, they should be imprisoned as well.
All right, so let's hypothetically say we did all that and we put people in prison, you know, and I'm okay with you addressing doctors and lawyers and people in the community. I think that has to happen. But the only way to get to the head of the snake is to arrest the people that are the snakes, you know, the congressmen and we haven't seen one of those people arrested. Boss, not one.
No, we have not. And I will tell you on the global level, we know who the head of the snake is on the global level. And these are people that were one time U.S. influencers who reside outside the United States now. So they can't be brought back to the United States. Hopefully they're hiding to some degree. But they still have relationships within the United States, within Congress, within influential businessmen and large corporations in America. So they all protect each other. I think, you know, what you will generally hear from these people, whether they say it openly or not, they will say, if you take me down, I'm taking you down with me. So they basically, like a pack of jackals, they threaten each other to say, you better keep your mouth shut and you better protect me or I'm going to throw you under the bus. And this is, you know, it kind of reminds me of that great movie that The Untouchables.
Yeah.
With Elliot Ness going into Chicago, remember? And all the corruption he found. Well, just magnify that by 1,000,000 times. And that's what we have in the United States.
And you see it every day. Like you can see judges making decisions every day. Like they are literally the enforcers of this crime family. And they're doing the bidding of evil people. And then doing so wearing a black robe and saying, you must bow down to me. You're not allowed to talk back to me. You're not. everything that you have, your constitutional rights, when you walk into a courtroom, they want to strip away from you and they want to treat you like you're their slave. I mean,
That's right.
it is, you submit to me or I will beat you, right? I mean, it's disgusting. It's gross.
Yeah. I tell you what, when bad things happen to bad people, the scenario changes.
Yeah.
And I, too, am not advocating violence, but let me tell you something. If doing what our founding fathers did in order to free this country is a crime, then we're all criminals. We're all criminals because that's what should be done again. They didn't tolerate the British stealing from them. They didn't tolerate the British from raping their families, burning their homes, committing crimes, weaponizing the law. They didn't. So I think it's really interesting if you take a look back at all the things that our founding fathers did to secure our freedom and to make sure that justice reigned in this country. I think that we have the right to do the same thing, whatever that is. And in other words, if you don't do that in a broken system, then what happens is the broken system will rule you and it will crucify you, it will imprison you. Look, I grew up as a Cold Warrior. I watched the Soviet Union. I watched Russia become the Soviet Union. And whether under Marxism or communism, this is what happened. The elites ruled and the people suffered. And that is what will happen here in kind of a very deceptive manner, all hidden under the cloak of a judicial system, which in itself is a Marxist system to a great degree. That's what we're seeing right now.
So, what's it going to take when people like you and people like me, and there are other people that are listening that are like us, what's it going to take when we end up standing together? Because they're trying to keep us apart, by the way. And there are people on the Democrat side and Republican, independent side, they all feel the same way. This is not a new phenomenon, right?
Yeah.
They feel like they're alone. And so the more and more we start finding our tribe, you know, and it's happening. Like, it's, people call me all the time, like, Joe, I need you to invite you to this meeting. But how do we get to that place where, I mean, sooner or later it just becomes second nature. Like, all right, let's just go, right? And it's happened in history in the United States. It's happened all over the world. The reason why I bring that up is because people are noticing it in ways that I don't think we've ever experienced before. Like a 5-year-old's killed by a judge that lets the person out, and they want to talk about the fact that judge should get impeached. Well, Baz, what do you think the judge should be? You think he should just be impeached and go on about your business? You killed a 5-year-old, no problem?
I think the judge should be imprisoned for murder. That's what I think. I think the judge is now complicit in the crime that took place. The judge is put there for a reason, because we trust their judgment, because we trust them to do the right thing according to the law. Yep. And when they choose not to do that, and now damage has been done to their citizens because of their actions, they should be held accountable. And that's what I believe. I believe that if this criminal is going to go to prison for murder, I believe the person that facilitated the crime, which is the judge, it's not rocket science. The judge had a choice. The judge could say, no, I'm going to make sure that you don't harm anybody else, so you're going to get the death penalty or you're going to go to prison for the rest of life. But no, instead the judge said, I realize that you could harm somebody else, but I'm going to let you go out there so that you can harm somebody else. Yeah. That's not only irresponsible, that's stupidity. And that is with intent. Because if the judge is smart enough to realize that a crime could happen again, and they still do that, then that was deliberate. Now, if the judge is so stupid that they can't realize that, why are they a judge? And that's what they lean into. They go, well, we're just going to impeach you because you're not worthy of the seat. No, what I say is they are worthy of the seat, and guess what? They know exactly what they did, and they did it intentionally. And guess what? Now you go to prison for that. That's what I believe. I don't believe that in the future, when it comes to accountability, that if we who are of the common mind, so to speak, in those issues, gather, I think it's too dangerous, to be honest with you. I think that just like the J6 situation, right? It in our history, it was a good thing that took place all the way around, because we saw organizations weaponized to go against innocent people who were exercising their right. And we saw all the lies that took place, and we saw all the stupid stuff that Pelosi did, and we've learned it all over this time. But I think that if we were going to encourage the American people, I would say that we stand united, but we don't necessarily need to gather. I think each individual that knows what is the right thing to do in their community needs to go out and do it. That's what I believe. And that way, what happens is things are more compartmented when it comes to justice being served. And I also believe that it's harder for evil to get to you when you're not standing there on the front line with 50,000 people, to be honest with you. I think this is what we learned from J6. And I think historically, that's what we learned. One of the great things, and I think you probably saw it, Joe, there's a great series that came out called Turn, Washington Spies.
Yeah.
And that was during the time we were being occupied. And so, yes, some militias gathered together, but they were a big target. So what was the most effective? Individual people believing in the Republic and doing things that needed to be done under the radar, so to speak, to secure the freedom for the nation. And that's clandestine warfare is what it is. Now, I know we feel more comfortable when we're united with our brothers and sisters of the Republic, so to speak, and we're gathering with 50,000 people, or we go to a CPAC rally or a Republican rally or whatever it may be. And I think those things are good. I think they are. But when it comes to a plan of action, so to speak, it is only effective, in my experience, when it is not known, business is taken care of, and then the results are good.
Well, I got to tell you, I feel, I've done things where I've always felt when I did stuff that I probably shouldn't have been doing, especially when I went overseas. And I know you've been doing some amazing work on your success rate with your nonprofit. You built ARC into this amazing organization. But when I went overseas, I always got nervous when more than me was involved, because I can trust me, right? And I know what I'm capable of doing. And someone else always got in the way, or they would give me advice. Every time I went on and did something that I should not have been doing, or went somewhere that they said, all right, Joe, can you go do this? And I'm like, sure, I'll go do it. And they're like, well, these two people are going with you. I was like, yeah, I'm not interested. I'll do it myself. I don't need any help, right? Because I knew that I could trust me to get across the finish line, get things done. And every time you put someone else in it. So I agree with you, but I don't want to promote vigilantism in an idea that people have. I just think there should be accountability, and I think that should be a fear, that a healthy fear that we should have in society, that you can't act with impunity. But I think these judges feel like they're just above it all. They could do whatever they want. And they're tied directly to this crime family, tied directly to the cartels, tied directly to the trafficking of drugs, tied directly to Epstein, tied directly to, and you just start doing this math and it becomes almost difficult to ignore.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're correct on that. It does become difficult to ignore. It's, yeah, you're right about doing things individually because who you can't trust. I think we have to really define if there is an actual enemy against the people, right, so to speak, or an actual enemy. And once that's defined, then your actions are justified, so to speak. But you have to have hard evidence. You have to, there has to be crimes against the people, and it's really solid. Like, we'll go back to real quick, like our chemtrails. Look, that's all evidence. We know that's crimes against people right there, and we know that for a fact. So if you get Americans that go, okay, we're going to bring a lawsuit against this company that produces the chemicals, or okay, now it's so corrupt that the lawsuit isn't working and it's not shutting them down, then it's like, what's the next step? And, I think you have to leave that up to the American people. They have the right to defend themselves. So, it's, in one way, it's not an easy decision to make. And it's interesting because when you bring up the word vigilante, we always use that term in the negative. I think when you look at the definition of it, it's not so negative, actually. If I'm not mistaken, it's when a judicial system is broken or when justice is broken or not served, the people go out and render justice. So is that a bad thing? I don't know. I think the reason we speak of it in the negative, so to speak, is because we don't want a bunch of yahoos going out and just witch hunting, and that can be dangerous as well. That can be dangerous as well. But when you see things like, all right, like Colorado militia, right? And they're forming up, and then everybody thinks the Colorado militia is bad, and yet you study our history, and militias are part of this country. Well, why is that bad? And why are they doing? Now, can any organization turn bad? Of course it can. And is it responsible to make sure you monitor their own organization and make sure they're doing the right thing? Of course it is. But people just kind of jump the gun and go, wow, Colorado militia, those are bad people. They're going to create problems. And for many of us, including yourself, that know some of those members of a lot of different militias around the country.
Good people.
They're good people, man. Most of them fought for this country, and they're just saying, look, I know what evil is, and I'm not going to let it come to my town. I'm not going to let it come to my state or whatever. So it's real easy to sway the opinion of a public that is uneducated. And guess what?
No question.
It's like those things you see when somebody goes into New York City and says, so who was the first president of the United States? And they go, George Bush. What happened?
That happens. That happens.
It happens all the time. It's really, or you get those people that go and interview the people on No Kings, and they go, so why are you protesting? Well, I just don't like the color of the way the moon was last week. Or I don't like what President Trump is doing in South Africa right now. It's like, what's he doing in South Africa? Well, I don't know, but I heard he's doing something bad. Just idiots. And I think about
retards.
Retards is a good word. Retards is a good word. I think when I look at those things, I want to say that about 70% of the American public are really uneducated. Now, here's what's interesting. That was by design too, Joe. That was by design with Obama and Clinton and all the way up through the guy that lost his mind, the president before President Bush.
Clinton?
Whatever his name is, Joe. Yeah, Shaky Joe. I remember talking to teachers up here in Estes Park who said, we don't even teach American history anymore. They weren't from Estes Park. They were from some other places. And I said, what do you mean you don't teach American history? Well, what are our kids learning? Well, we just don't teach it like that anymore. So we have a whole generations of people that don't even understand the founding of the country, what it took to maintain freedom, and what you need to do in the future to keep that freedom. So much, not to their own fault, these generations or a lot of people, but they just don't know. And so when you get these interviews on the streets and it's adults, I go, there's no excuse. You're my age. You're 69 and you studied history. Yeah.
All right, we have to take a commercial break, but I'm going to come back. I want to talk to you about this executive order. So I still have you for some more time?
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
All right, we're going to go for 2 minutes because I want to do one thing on Honor Bound and DCF, and then we'll be right back.
Roger that.
Hi, I'm Joe, Supreme Leader of DCF Guns. What is DCF Guns, you ask? We're the best damn gun store and range in the universe. Do we have guns? We have all the guns. We got small guns. We got big guns. We even have beastly guns. We offer all types of training, and we have 5 ranges across our 3 locations. I'm a good shot. And of course, we have all types of ammo. We even have flamethrowers. Woo! We offer incredible membership opportunities, and members save even more on guns, ammo, and accessories. Come join the DCF family today, where we keep the range hot and the deals hotter. It's hot. In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in.
Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle. So I want to put this up really quick before I bring Baz back in, but I talk about taking a picture where you're wearing some of the stuff we have with Honor-Bound USA. And one of the most popular ones is the 4 things that I tell you must do. Pray, stand, speak, and act. It's biblical. And so these are, this is Pam. Go ahead and put it up a little bit further so you can see the shirt she's wearing. And she's wearing a shirt. And she put a post up and she tagged me on Facebook. So Pam, good to see you, Pam Church. She's an amazing patriot and she's wearing a shirt. And she called me and said, I need to send a sweatshirt to my son, George. And I was like, you can definitely do that as well. I'm sure he'll appreciate it. So anyway, honorboundusa.com. Baz, whew, man, there is some things that we've talked about related to what President Trump is doing, and you believe that he is a 5D chess player. And unfortunately, I think he has to give a little to get a little. I think it's one of the reasons why we're in Iran right now is because there's a little bit of, hey, I'm going to do all of this stuff, and I know what the outcome's going to be, so maybe I have to, by proxy, do some of this stuff over here. I pray that that's not the case, but I can't imagine going into Israel or into Iran for any other reason. Now, yesterday he signed something. Do you know what he signed yesterday?
Nope, go ahead and tell me.
He signed an executive order on elections. Super, I mean, it's the crackdown on voter fraud related to mail-in voting. And so here's what he had to say just before he did. Put it up.
Thank you very much. This was a meeting set up very proudly by us, having to do with voter integrity and mail-in ballots and stopping the massive cheating that's gone on. And so we're going to be signing an executive order. It's, I believe it's foolproof. And maybe it'll be tested, maybe it won't. I think it's very obvious what's said. And I'll ask Will Scharf to start off, attorney, a great talent, a very brilliant young man. And if you could discuss it, and then I'm going to ask Howard Lutnick to say a few words, and then I'm going to sign it, and we'll take a couple of questions. Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. President, as you said, you have in front of you an executive order that deals with a number of issues relating to election integrity. As you've consistently identified, 2 of the biggest problems we have with election integrity in this country are, 1, inaccurate voter rolls that allow ineligible people to vote in various federal and state elections all over the country. And then secondarily, you've consistently identified that vote by mail in this country has become rife with fraud. People returning ballots who aren't eligible to return ballots, ballots being sent to people who aren't confirmed to be eligible voters. So what this executive order is going to do is, 1, we're going to take federal data. We're going to ensure that each state's election officials are provided with a comprehensive view of who the eligible voters in their jurisdiction actually are, allowing them to properly verify that everybody voting in their elections is legally able to vote. And then it orders the Postmaster General, the U.S. Postal Service, to take bold new measures to verify that ballots both being sent to people are being sent to people who are eligible to vote, and then that ballots being returned are being properly returned by eligible voters only. And we believe that combined, the measures in this executive order will help secure elections in the future and ensure that the many abuses of our election system in the past aren't repeated in future elections.
Right.
So he signed an executive order that basically strips out the ability for them to have mail-in ballots. Now, there's lots of people out there, Secretary of States, that are saying, oh, this is a racist new deal. It's like dog whistle central. Baz, if we can get the election under control, we change the direction of the country and the world.
Absolutely. Yeah, General Mike Flynn's been working on this issue for a long time now. Mike and I speak frequently, and election fraud is one of the things that he also realized that the Republic will stand if, in fact, we have fair elections. In fact, it is critical that every nation, or at least particularly our nation, has fair elections. And it is also obvious with all the fraud and all the cheating that no one can deny any longer that we have a problem in the country. So I think this is a historical moment for accountability, as we've been talking about, and securing our elections for the United States of America. And I don't think there's any racist thing to do with it. There's no overreach. Once again, when you get the left or people that disagree with something like this, they're always going to throw some card out there, the race card, or people are too short and they can't walk fast enough to get to the polls to vote, or whatever it may be, ridiculous stuff. So, common sense, once again, is that this is the right thing to do. Securing our elections and making sure we can't cheat, making sure there's no corruption. And I think, as you know, it's very obvious from the past, and I will tell the American people this, and most people don't know this, had it not been for a select, I think this is the first time I've ever said this, and I won't give away the ghost, so to speak, but even with President Trump winning the last election, which you saw, almost Joe, 90% of the country was red, right?
Yeah.
I will let the American public now know that it had not been for a handful of people that will remain unknown, and this is the God's honest truth, the Democrats would have cheated again using a similar system, and President Trump would not have gotten in office. That's a fact. And these people, thank goodness that they got ahead of the game and they stopped the cheating and the fraud from happening again, just as it did with Dominion before. And so we were able to provide fair elections to a certain degree across America for 47 to be where he is right now.
Yeah, so this is where we get into the sticky water of what is going to come out at the other end of this. Things that we know, things we know about the election, things we know about what's happening in the country, what they did in 2024 to ensure that President Trump won. I'm very familiar with some of the things that happened there, and it's not conjecture, by the way. It's absolute. No. And if we didn't have Elon Musk on the side of ours, and he knew, I mean, he was briefed. He knew at that point. He knew what had to be accomplished in order to stop some of the fraud. And by the way, I say some of the fraud because some of it was unavoidable. Dominion's headquarters is in Denver. Colorado went against the national trend across the entire country. They had full access to the system at the source, and they could steal elections with impunity and steal votes with impunity. They could do it at any level. They could literally, Dominion can do anything they want at any level during any election because they have a full-fledged team with the Secretary of State, the AG, and the governor that are holding all the keys to the bully pulpit. So if we don't get the election stuff under control, Baz, we're finished. We're finished.
Absolutely, absolutely. Look, I come from an organization, and I think it's everybody knows it. The TIAA, we have our hands in rigging elections in other countries. That's not something that's not well known, and most of the time for good reason, because we wanted to put the right people in government, and which was a national security issue for us, particularly if it was south of the border or whatever it may be. So we know we had the ability to do it, and in fact, when the elections were rigged the first time, I had a former CIA officer who was familiar with that system that said, this is the same system that's happening right now that we used in country X, Y, and Z. And he goes, these are being rigged. And so we sat back, and sure enough, we watched Biden get in office, okay? So, and then of course, Joe, you know this, that when the lawsuit went up against Dominion, obviously it went against the company, the machines, rather than the software. And so they couldn't go back to court and, hit this issue again. So, the truth was out. So for the sake of the American people, this is really important. This executive order is important. This is also one of the things we have to look outside of that executive order is a few other things. For example, we know for a fact that the reason Biden allowed one of the reasons Biden allowed the open border situation was so that we could have illegal immigrants come in here, which what we have now, still 11 million that aren't U.S. citizens that we're trying to find, so that they could vote in favor of the Democratic Party. We know that, in fact, and so when you get all these people, particularly Democrats, that go, you've got to stop this, got to stop ICE, you've got to stop deporting people. They want us to stop because they want those people to vote in favor of the Democratic Party, which is basically the socialist Marxist party that we have in the United States right now.
Yeah, this is. I actually believe that we're actually getting it further than we think we are right now, and President Trump is, I think, doing the best he can in a sea full of really bad people, right? Just not really good people. And David Clements put up a whole thing that he wrote about going a little further on Trump's executive order. And I want to go through this with you, and I'll leave you with this because I think this is a pretty big deal. But he talks about, at first blush, I thought it was rather benign, that may be its greatest strength. The Youngstown Steel case, which is a definitive case on war powers, holds that the president's powers are at their zenith when it works in tandem with Congress. And that's what this executive order does. It takes existing law, some of it 20 years old, and shoves it down the throats of the Democrat lawyers. Well, Trump still has the Trump card, though, his plenary authority under the Article 2 to do way more. The restraint of this executive order is like pitching the Supreme Court a softball, where they affirm long-held legal standards. Much of the recent tariff decisions, where the court struck down one provision only to affirm several other routes for tariffs, with the president and Scott Bessent declaring victory by hiding their real power, I think the challenge on this executive order may do the same thing. It invokes Article 2's command that the president shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed. It frames non-citizen voting and unsecure mail-in ballots as violations of federal crime statutes. The federal government has a direct duty to prevent dilution of the citizen vote through fraud or ineligible participation, directing agencies, DHS, SSA, USPS, and the DOJ to share verified citizenship data and secure postal transmission of ballots is faithful execution of existing prohibitions on non-citizen voting, not new legislation. Courts have recognized broad presidential discretion in directing executive branch enforcement priorities, especially for national interests like election integrity. Providing states with federal databases, SSA records, and DHS SAVE, assist compliance with the NVRA HAVA list maintenance requirements without commandeering state officials. This is narrower than earlier 2025 attempts to rewrite legislative forms which faced injunctions. In 2026, executive order focuses more on data sharing and USPS operations. Also consider the guaranteed clause. The executive order cites the federal obligation to guarantee every state a Republican form of government. I would argue the widespread non-citizen voting and unverifiable mail-in processes undermines the Republican character of elections by allowing ineligible voters to dilute lawful ones. This provides a constitutional hook for federal intervention to protect the integrity of the election process itself, beyond routine manner regulations. In short, federal databases already exist for citizenship verification. The executive order systematizes their use to fulfill HAVA and NVRA accuracy mandates. The irony, of course, that the swamp used these systems to inflate numbers and commit massive fraud. Now their toys are being used against them. What do you think about that take from Professor David Clements?
Yeah, I think it's pretty accurate, to be honest with you. Yeah, it's very accurate. The biggest thing that this affects not only obviously voting in the president we the people want, the majority of America, but it also, when it's not handled this way, Americans become discouraged. And you've probably heard this as much as I did after the fraud for the elections for President Trump before. People are like, well, why do I even vote? My vote doesn't count. And so that's extremely dangerous for a nation where it should count and you should be proud to vote. And you as an American should feel that your vote is going to be secure and it's going to be heard and it's going to count towards something. It's called fair elections,
Yeah, we're in the throes right now of, I feel like I'll get a little bipolar. That I go from everything's going well and it's not going well, it's going well, it's going well. I was just fed a bunch of information about Eric Coomer related to the Royal Bank of Canada and some holdings on that by a few people that called me and said, Joe, tell me you still have this case against Coomer. And they go, we found all this information. So they fed me all this information. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Why is this guy not in prison?
Right.
And I know they're listening right now. You got David Beller, the big fraudster lawyer in Colorado, and the amount of just, I don't know what you call it, gaslighting that is happening right now. When we know for a fact that these people are guilty of seditious crimes, and yet we have to tolerate it and hold our breath and hold our nose a little bit as we walk through it. But I just believe at the end it's all going to work out.
Yeah, we'll see. I try not to predict what the end looks like, Joe, at this stage. I just know that we are in the fight to the end, and that's what I stand on. The interesting thing about the opposition, whoever that opposition is, whether it's outside the country or not, is they underestimate the resolve of the American patriot. And while many of us have fought for so many years outside of our country to secure this freedom from enemies that generally are foreign, we are now here on our own soil defending this country against enemies that are domestic. And what they underestimate is the fact that we're willing to die on our own soil here, and we will take it to the end. And our generations after us, we will teach them to do the same thing. So they might be able to get rid of a Joe Oltmann or a Bazzel Baz or one person, but guess what? There are millions of us. There are millions of Joe Oltmanns and Bazzel Bazes in this country that will step up to the plate. And so when I think about that, I think it encourages me to continue to go, because if my country is not worth fighting for, then what is? This is where we live. Same thing with our state here in Colorado. This is the reason every year we go back up there into Denver to fight for our Second Amendment rights. It's just, and it's a long game. And it's like, who's going to hold out? Well, I'll tell you what, we will hold out. We will hold out. So when I look at the executive order that the president has signed, he's really good about not trying to get into each state's back pocket, so to speak, and let them do what states are supposed to do. But then all of a sudden, like this, when he realizes that there's so much corruption within the states, he has to step forward, as a president should, for the good of the nation, and put an executive order that says, guess what? This is federal now. This is mandated federally, and you will do this. And you know what? All the excuses like, well, we can't get to the polls. Yeah, you can. You can get to the grocery store. You can get to the polls, believe me. So we're not buying all the excuses from the left or the woke society or whatever it is anymore. We are standing up, and I think we're off to a good start. And we may take a dip in the road here and there, but guess what? My dad always said this. It's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get up that counts. And guess what? For the American patriot and for we in Colorado, we are relentless, and we are going to get up every single time. And so I think we are the stronger of the people that try to go against us, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I have no lack of fight in me, and I know you don't either. And we're definitely those that and there's plenty of us. There's millions of us.
Yeah.
And we find our tribe every day, more and more. Baz, I thank you. I need to be able to give a shout out to you for ARC, and how can people follow you? How can people donate to you? How can people support what you're doing in order to protect the most vulnerable among us?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. You can go to recoveryofchildren.org is our website, and then we encourage people to go to recoveryofchildren.com, where you'll find our 6-day Fight Child Trafficking Equipping course, where we are training people up and force multiplying to actually get the communities out there and rescuing kids. We just had a great example of that just this past week, last 3 days. We had a 12-year-old missing in a certain state, and people that we had trained up actually got involved and actually got that kid back. So, 12 years old. being groomed online, right? And then the next thing you know, almost being trafficked, if not already being trafficked. So we want to encourage the American people to let us get you in the fight. If you care about the future of the country, guess what? The future of the country are our children. And if we allow our children to be abused and be used as a commodity, then this is the type of adults we're going to have. They're going to be dysfunctional and crushed, and they're not going to be worth anything. So thank you for that, Joe. Of course, your donations, as you know, we're all volunteer service. We don't take a paycheck. Nobody does. Haven't in 34 years. So your prayers and your donations are always, we're always grateful for those things, and also grateful of spreading the word around the country that if you are a predator and you harm one of our children, we will come after you and we will find you. And there is no place you can hide. Absolutely no place in the entire world.
I could tell you right now, there's no place you can hide. We caught a judge in his chambers downloading porn in Colorado.
Wow.
And I'm not going to tell you how that happened, but I can tell you I know how it happened.
Yeah.
And if I told you how many other people that now I'm tracking pretty hard, I want to catch them all. And there's a lot of them, Buzz. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them that are tied to churches. There's a lot of them that are tied to the judiciary specifically.
Absolutely.
Really, really bad people.
Yeah, and you keep doing that. I will tell you, sadly, in our own state, children in the state of Colorado are not a priority when it comes to our legislators. They are just not. And even amongst some of our law enforcement here, I just had that conversation recently, and they were very frank with me, and they said, look, some attorney generals here do not think that children are a priority in our state. And I believe that in the state of Colorado, we should be able to look at every child here and say, no child will be harmed on our watch. And that should be a priority in our state, the great state of Colorado. And that's the message we should be able to send. But unfortunately, we cannot send that message now because it's not true. And I think Coloradans need to realize that.
I agree with you fully. Well, God bless you, my brother. I appreciate you very much, and I look forward to being with you. And you need to send me some stuff to invite me to one of your fundraisers so I can fly out and hang out with you if you're somewhere else. But if you're here, I'll be here too. So you just tell me.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it. I wish we had that many fundraisers. I be honest with you, just so everybody knows, we have one fundraiser a year.
I missed it
because
too.
we're so busy with operations. I as much as I even love our home here in Colorado, I think I'm gone like maybe seven months out of the year off and on just in operations. We just recently got off the Tex-Mexican border with a 20-man unit down there doing some things to, figure out if kids were still coming across. And as much as we're doing from Washington, that border is still porous. It's still there. They're still bringing kids across. They're still bringing drugs. Terrorists are coming across. And so I have the pleasure of being invited to speak to the Department of War in July to basically encourage our military to become a major part of our efforts to stop child sex trafficking across the border. So keep us in your prayers that, they get it. And again, I'm grateful for that opportunity. But yeah, we still have a little bit of work to do. So.
Well, I am incredibly grateful for the work that you've done. Incredibly grateful. I mean, in ways that I can't even quantify. So thank you.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it.
It makes it worth it. It makes it worth it.
Well, God bless you, brother. Thanks for having us on here. And however we can always be of service, give us a call, okay?
Sounds good. God bless.
All right, man. Out here.
Man, he's just amazing. And by the way, do not let that like even keeled fool you. I promise you, the guys that he's when he's going to take care of business and save women and children and work on the borders, man, those guys they will make sure that evil does not win under any circumstances. Well, I want you guys to know something. I'm gonna pop out of here now, and I want to tell you about some wins that we have. So, yeah, we got a bunch of wins. We got a ton of wins. One, in Colorado, there was a ruling that said that we could have basically closed primaries. We should. I mean, and we've got some stuff to work out on what that really means. and how that ruling affects our ability to close the primaries, take over our elections, take over our primary elections, which we should do. And also in Boise, the mayor was forced to take down this LGBT flag that they had because there was a law in Idaho, the bill that is signed by Brad Little, and the law basically says it restricts the flags to state and local government entities only. And that is in counties, schools, and public buildings. They can only, so no more pride flags. This is the anti-sex world, which is good. It's good. Let these kids be kids. But here's a video that I just smiled. Let's go ahead and play it.
It's not political. It's not religious. It's not ideological. For each other will carry us through. Yes, our love for each other will carry us through. We're here with our courage.
So the retarded took their flag and didn't take it home. It's like taking your toys and going home, only the retarded did it. Look, if you believe that you have to fly a flag and that somehow your sexuality matters, it doesn't. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to anyone. I don't care if you're a purple dinosaur. Could care less. I have gay friends, straight friends. One of my best friends is super gay, and he's still one of my best friends. And it doesn't matter to me. We don't talk about his sexual stuff. We don't talk about it. It's not, whatever he does is he does. I accept him where he is, not where I want him to be. By the way, if you're wondering about this, I had to have surgery stuff done. This is like the easy stuff, but I had to have this stuff done yesterday. Man, it like burned me. Anyway, not real surgery. I want to just a couple more things, and then we have a special. You're going to want to share this. Joe Kent got on with me and Tommy this morning, and we had some great conversations about Joe Kent. And I'm going to tell you, they're trying to paint this broad picture that Joe's a bad guy because he resigned because he didn't want people to die. And here's a guy that who lost his wife Shannon in combat, and he wrote a book, by the way, which I've read the book, and I read the book by accident. I didn't even know who he was when I read it, and I think I talked about it on here last year sometime. But his wife Shannon was, tried to balance, what is it that you try to balance, or here's the being a mission-driven, working on these missions, and also balancing it with having a family. And I don't want to ruin it for you, but go look it up. It's a great book. But I wanted to, before I give you that, a couple things I want to go through. Ilhan Omar was speaking in Somali. This is crazy. Go ahead and play it.
No, in jidadkeennii aan wada dhisanno. Anigu waan ahay gabar Mareykanka laga doortay oo Kongresska Mareykanka ku jirto. Laakiin waxaan ahay gabar Soomaaliyeed, gabar idinku jinsi ah, gabar idinku af ah, gabar idinku diin ah, oo hadde qof iyadoo da'yar waddankeedii laga kaxeeyay wili xiise u qabto in maalin waddankeedii ay ku noolaato oo dadkeedii wax ay la wadaagto. Marka alxamdulilah waxaan rajaynayaa aniga iyo ilmahayga in aan hadde ku barbaariyo iyagana ilmahooda ay ku barbaariyaan dhulkii aniga aan ku soo koray. Taasna haddii ay suurtagelayso waa hadda shaqo badan inaan wada qabannaa hadduu Ilaahay yiraahdo oo aan ka dhignaa dhulkeena dhul barwaaqadiisa dadka oo dhan ay dareemi karaan oo ay arki karaan oo ay ka wada faa'iideysan karaan.
Okay. You have an elected official that's talking about taking and being over in Somalia. Then go. Get out. Get out. We should not have, if you are not born in the United States, you should not be a judge. If you're not, if your mother and father are not born in the United States, you should not be a judge. if you're not a second generation, if you don't understand the ethos of our country, this replacement theology has got to stop. This anti-white, I'm not white, black people are bad, they don't know how to use a phone, they can't get an ID. This racist, homophobic deal that they've created around these weirdos, and most people that are on that are gay and or are white, they're not racist, they're not anything. They just want to live. They want American values. We're demonized as the majority, and we are a large majority. Most Democrats, Republicans, Independents, we just want life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and we don't want to be taxed to death. But here's a student that was suspended for wearing a t-shirt. Play it.
I wore a shirt with the American flag on it. I wasn't protesting, I wasn't trying to cause trouble, it was just a regular school day. My third period, I was called into the office. They told me the shirt could create tension. I was suspended for the rest of the week.
Your Honor, the school maintains a dress code to prevent disruption. Certain symbols, depending on context, may escalate tensions among students. Our responsibility is to maintain order and safety. The decision was...
So you can suspend somebody's right to wear a flag if they deem it as going against order. This is the same reason why you have Big Pharma that's just stuffing psychotropic drugs down our kids' throats. And here's this. We'll finish with this guy. This is a guy from the No Kings rally. So now they have Democrat men, you know, feminists that are wearing red lipstick to protest. Play it.
Hello, it's the Master. The reason I have red lipstick on is because I'm at the demonstration in Traverse City. There are thousands of us. And red lipstick, I was informed last night by my friend Jen, was a form of resistance when Hitler was trying to take over the world. He didn't like women wearing red lipstick. So I've decided red lipstick. Everybody put on red lipstick to show resistance against you know who. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others. Over and out.
You're a freak. You're the epitome of retarded. This is how I don't know what you want to call this degradation we're going through, where retards like this, let's wear lipstick to protest President Trump giving us free and fair elections and making it so we don't have to cater to retards like this. Yeah, okay. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and more. You got all that different stuff. I want you to hear this. This is Joe Kent in an interview that we had. It'll be great. Stick around for it. And we'll cut it up too and put it out there separately. But yeah, watch this.
What a bad day to have you on. I'm going to be like, I had Joe Kent on today, and no one's going to. It's going to be the worst April 1st joke ever. But obviously, Joe Kent, Joe Oltmann, both gentlemen I've known for a while, and Joe Kent is I actually got banned from Twitter a couple of weeks ago for posting a bunch of links to my interviews with you, saying, hey, here are interviews with a timestamp on the bottom right-hand corner going back to 2021, and his message has never once changed. But, you know, instead of anyone addressing that, I got suspended from Twitter. So nothing else has ever done it except that. So,
wild. I didn't know that. That was what got you.
Yeah.
Did they actually say that's what got you suspended?
Well, I said Joe Kent is a hero, and then kept retweeting those. So,
interesting.
Yeah. Well, obviously, Joe Kent, how are you doing, sir?
Doing well, man. Good to see you. Good to be with you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming on here. Again, because very limited time. Joe Oltmann, I'm going to kind of hand it over to you. I know you really want to talk to my buddy Joe Kent. It's also very confusing having two Joes.
Yeah. Hey, Joe, I've been following you for quite some time, more about the fact that you lost your wife in combat. So my condolences to you for that specifically. Man, you've had a kind of a wild ride over the last couple of weeks. Actually, probably a couple of years, but a couple of weeks has been a little bit more wild.
It has been, yeah. You know, honestly, I didn't know when I resigned it was going to get that this much, you know, attention, and then especially I didn't think I'd get this much positive attention. So been pretty humbled and grateful for all the support I've gotten.
So what's the outcome? You were investigating a lot of things. You felt like you were just getting roadblocks. The one that caught my attention the most was what happened with Charlie Kirk, that you walked in to investigate things and the FBI just basically shut you down. Is that normal? I mean, you obviously have connections to CIA and other institutions inside of the government. Is this a normal behavior for the FBI, or is this something you thought was just a little strange?
It felt strange to me. But honestly, my background being in special operations in the CIA, I had worked with the FBI before, but not necessarily on an investigation that involved the murder in America. NCTC's role in domestic terrorism, when there's an act of terrorism in the U.S., is to look for any foreign ties, so foreign entities, foreign individuals that could be involved. And so, as I've said on other shows, my view was that we still had more work to do in that regard, that there were still leads for us to run down. Again, I'm not pointing to any one person, any one country, but I'm saying there was still more work for us to do, and then the FBI came in and rapidly closed down the investigation, or at least blocked us from it.
Okay, so I don't know what's off limits and what's not off limits, and I have a tendency to get into the off limits area, but I saw a report that said that there were 11 or 12 or so foreign cell phones that were in the area when Charlie Kirk was shot. Is that accurate, or is that not accurate, or is it not something someone would have access to that information?
You know, I saw those too, and I just know from what I saw in the investigation, and then from dealing with large data sets of cell phone polls from a big event like that, that it's pretty hard. I mean,
it's difficult.
That was
it's
like a really
impossible.
specific number, so I'm not sure how accurate that report was.
Okay, so I have to run through a scenario with you because it seemed a little odd. Right after Charlie was shot, guy stood up and said, you know, it was me, shoot me, right? Then you have a guy that's in town that is being deliberate about having this gun in the back of his car, and they're like, yes, we caught the shooter for Charlie Kirk. Then a day later, they're like, okay, the first guy was basically a false flag. Second guy, it seemed like an operation. It seemed like they were going through steps in order to create false flags. What do you think the opportunity is that Tyler is also a false flag?
Oh, the suspect himself?
Yeah.
I don't want to speculate on that. I mean, I think that's going to play out here in court. I think just because of my knowledge and because the fact that as many reporters have pointed out, I could be called to testify. I don't want to speculate on him. Again, I'm going to kind of fall back to what I said. I think there was still more work to do in terms of determining if there was any pre-knowledge or any kind of foreign nexus. But to what you said about the guy standing up and saying, I did it, but then also the people who had posted on social media ahead of time saying that, like, yeah, we think Charlie Kirk is going to get killed, you know, in UVU on this day, pretty specific, and it sounds like there was foreknowledge. So to me, I have always said that I believe there was and is more work for us to do to determine just the full story, to figure out exactly what happened and who killed Charlie and why.
All right, so I got a lot of friends that are in special operations all over the world. And the more I talk to them, the more they feel like people are getting to that place where what we see in this investigation about needing more work to be done is becoming more common, that there isn't a whole lot of completion that happens, or that we're, you know, hemming up cases the way they used to hem up cases. Do you think that's a reflection of just the people the talent of the people that are in those positions, or do you think this is more purposeful? Because everyone is talking about it. Everyone is talking about the fact that bad guys are getting off and people aren't completing what they started.
I mean, it's hard to make a broad generalization, but I would say it's not a talent thing. There's very talented investigators throughout the U.S. government, and we have great technology nowadays. So I would push back pretty hard on it being a talent issue. You could maybe say leadership sometimes. But again, man, with the Charlie Kirk case, my personal opinion was that it was just, we were pushed off of it way too fast. And so I felt like we had more work to be done, and I didn't understand why there was such a rush to wrap things up.
What ultimately led you to resign? I know you've said this a few times before, but nobody's really come out and asked you the question. I mean, why did you resign instead of staying inside the system and trying to make a meaningful change in the position you were in?
That's a great question. Twofold. Number one, I came into the administration fully believing in the agenda that President Trump ran on, the way he governed in his first administration, that we were not going to get sucked into any more wars in the Middle East. I saw that happen. I saw the way Israel forced our hands and the way that we allowed ourselves to be forced by Israel, which was not something I had seen previously, being a ground level special operations guy, a ground level intelligence person, but being in the role that I was in, having access to what I had access to, and watching the Israelis come in, create that echo chamber of senior level Israeli officials, and then the pro-Israel media wing kind of working in unison to push an agenda that was not in support of U.S. strategic objectives, that really opened my eyes. And so, number one, I felt like I was no longer effective where I was. I felt like over the last year or so, the group of us who was against us getting sucked into endless wars, we were progressively being pushed out, and we didn't really have a seat at the table anymore. So I could not make any more of a difference from the inside. But then also, once this operation kicked off, and I saw the body bags start coming back, and the families going up to Dover to receive their loved ones the way that I did, I said, hey, I can't be a part of this in good conscience, especially knowing the full story of how we got here. I remember probably about 20 years ago or so, I was on my third deployment, and I had come to the realization on that deployment that we were lied to get into the Iraq War. And I remember reading About Face by David Hackworth, who, if you do some research on him, one of our most decorated soldiers, he eventually did the same thing, left the military to kind of speak out. And I really respected that, but I was frustrated that there was no senior level officials in the government during the Iraq War who had the courage to speak out and to say, hey, this is wrong. We got into this under false premise, to try and reverse the course. And so I wanted to try to get us out as quickly as I could within the first 2 weeks. But once I realized we weren't being effective, I wanted to leave and attempt to influence things from the outside so that I didn't just go along with a war that I knew was going to be a disaster.
Okay, so that brings me down to the second, term for President Trump. We saw what he did in the first term. We saw the first 2 years of that was, they had the House, they had the Senate, they had the ability to make meaningful change. The obstructionists came from within the Republican Party. You were a part of the administration. You were right there, up front and personal. You could see it. What kind of Judases or Brutuses are we dealing with inside the administration that maybe are influencing or giving information that would push him in a way that he's, having us act as a proxy for Israel or any other country for that matter? But in this case, it's definitely Israel.
Yeah, in terms of our foreign policy in the Middle East, it's definitely Israel. The amount of access that we give the Israelis and the amount of access they have to our intelligence service, I think that's something that we have to get under control really, really quickly. President Trump's very, very inner circle, like the folks that you saw that were down in Mar-a-Lago with him that night. I think a lot of them are good Americans with good intentions, but they believed a lot of what the Israelis told them. And they pushed that agenda, and they kind of pushed away dissenting voices or people who said, like, hey, this is probably not in our best interests, or hey, we're pursuing the Israelis' goal here. What's our goal? Let's take some time to talk about that. We were pushed out. So I think the main issue is just the amount of influence and influence at multiple levels. It's not any one thing. It's not just AIPAC. It's not just the media. It's not just the relationships that we've had long standing with the Israeli government and their intelligence services and the donors, et cetera. It's the totality of it. And the Israelis play a very, very, they're a tiny country, and they play a very, a small hand or a weak hand, however you want to put it. They play it very effectively. And so letting them have this access, I think, is something that we're going to have to make a concerted effort to get rid of and to root out and call out, which is why my letter was so pointed. Because when I saw how the Israelis came in and got what they wanted, and then you look back at all of our wars over the last 20 plus years in the Middle East, we've been pursuing the Israeli strategic objectives.
For longer than 20 years. You can go all, this is a long-standing problem that goes all the way back to the Clinton era. But if you read the tea leaves, and I agree with you, what they did in the Iraqi war was completely it was nonsense. I spent about 6 years over in the Middle East and Africa. I learned Arabic so that I know if I get my head cut off. But the thing that I always went back to is that there was always a narrative, and no matter, we talk about Jade and Ivy. I know it's completely
the opposite in the NBA, where he speaks out against this perversion inside the NBA. He's with the Chicago Bulls. They fire him, right? They're like, all right, we're going to let you go, because there's just one narrative. And the same thing can be said for our strategic objectives inside the military or inside of our administration. It seems like they always favor this one group, which is Israel. And you've been taking on a whole bunch of attacks for now. You're anti-Semitic. You're not allowed to have free thought. You've been disciplined your entire career. You're trying to be objective about what you're seeing, and they just take full shot at you as if somewhere along the line you woke up one day and you just hate the Israelis, which I think is antithetical to what you've done over your career.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, I respect the Israelis. Like they're pretty good at the game they run. Like you gotta respect how deliberate they are and how aggressively they pursue their national interests. All I want is for us to aggressively pursue our national interests. I think the American people deserve that from their government. So yeah, I mean, I knew the hate was going to come, and it's really the easiest way, I think, for the Israel lobby to shut people down is to say like you're anti-Semitic. And I say over and over again, like I could truly care less about what religion the Israelis are. If they were Christians, I'd feel the same way. If there was a Christian nation that was able to lobby our country, as effectively as the Israelis, I'd have an issue with that too, because it's a foreign country. But yeah, that's the game they play. Luckily, I think that effectiveness, I think it was really, really effective, probably up until a couple years ago. And every day that goes by and the more people that are called anti-Semites, the less effective it becomes. So even with me, I think, you've got Levin and whatever, Epstein's lawyer calling me, a Nazi. But
it's funny, it's Epstein's lawyer. I mean, yeah,
it's hilarious. The guy who defended Jeffrey Epstein's like, you're a horrible person. I'm like, well, if Epstein's lawyer said I'm a horrible person, like, I guess I'm doing something right in my life. But yeah, so I just don't think it has the effect that it used to anymore. And so I do think there's more folks that are like, hey, tell me more about why you believe what you believe, as opposed to just being shut down by the insults.
Well, I tell you what. So there's a surge of people that will support you, and then the attacks against you will be relentless, and then after that there'll be this lull, and then you'll have a depression where basically you feel like you're all alone. I'm just telling you the way this is going to play out for you. And whether you're Kyle Seraphin or Garrett O'Boyles or some of the other people that came out as strong as you did to support and protect the American people, you're going to go through it. I went through it. You're going to go through it. And so in knowing, I think you probably know that, right? You've probably studied this enough to know that this is not going to be a fun ride. And even though the ride right now seems fairly safe, what do you think the outcome is going to be? You think we're going to be able to get rid of? You think that what you're doing right now is going to make a difference? And if it does, strategically, where do you think that difference comes? Do you think we ever are able to depeg ourselves from Israel? Because their roots and their claws go deep into not just the political apparatus, on the foreign basis, but on the national basis. They have a pretty good grip on, judges and governors, and I mean, it's pretty pervasive.
My immediate goal right now is to prevent President Trump, is to help President Trump see that he does not need to put boots on the ground. And then also for him to see that if he wants to reach any kind of peace agreement that's going to reopen the Straits of Hormuz, because that matters for the price of the pump here, which matters for all Americans, it matters politically for the midterms, is that he has to restrain the Israelis. So number one, no boots on the ground. And that's what I've been lobbying heavily for. And then for him to also see that, like, look, you're going to keep getting blocked, and we're going to be back in the same cycle unless you actually restrain the Israelis. I think that's going to be key, because right now Israel's strategic objective in Iran is to get us deeply entrenched in this, because they can't take out the regime without us. And so this right now presents the opportunity, I think, for us to truly expose just that Israel has a completely different aim than us, and that they plan on using us as an instrument and as a tool to pursue their national objectives. So I think we'll actually be able to expose quite a good deal in the weeks and months ahead. Hopefully it's only weeks and months, and hopefully we prevent President Trump from putting boots on the ground. I pray that we do, and that he can kind of show that he has to restrain the Israelis. But this is going to be a long and hard fight. But what gives me a little bit of hope is that the under 50 crowd, especially the younger they get, they've kind of lost tolerance for us going to wars endlessly, us being influenced by foreign lobbies. So I think as we go ahead into the 2028 presidential primary on both the Republican and the Democrat side, I think this issue is actually going to play out in a very meaningful way with both the RNC and the DNC when they go to choose their next candidate for president. And so I just think the more that we can talk about it and the more that we can make it a critical issue, I think actually there's even a potential here for us to unite some left and unite some right to just say, hey, we don't want foreign influence in our government, because the Israeli lobby, the AIPAC lobby, they've just been exposed to just be so detrimental to our country.
Well, you just saw what happened with Bibi. There's a video out there of that's pretty incriminating for him and other people around him that says, "Hey, I can't even talk about this because, I'll end up dead. They'll end up dead." So how does a video like that get out? Like they're talking about Bibi almost in past tense, as if they're just going to eliminate him off the chessboard, and you almost can feel it. Like there's this pressure going on in the Israeli leadership to kind of cleanse what's happening. And by the way, I know for a fact, I have family in Israel. People in Israel do not have an appetite for the leadership in Israel. They feel captured.
Yeah, no, I think you're right though. The constant state of political crisis that not only America has been in, I think it's been amplified like tenfold in Israel. And really, actually, when we talk about like the Israeli lobby, especially in the last, going back to the Iraq War, it was kind of the Likud party. I'm not an expert on Israeli politics, but I know that Bibi was facing a political crisis before October 7th. These are a lot of the issues that Charlie Kirk himself was talking about before he was killed. So I don't think that this entity, as dark and as powerful as it may seem, it's not invincible. They can't kill everybody. They can't ruin everybody. They can't defame everybody. But I do think this is going to be a time where left and right in America are going to have to unite to get rid of the foreign, Israeli influence, and then hopefully we get some support from folks in Israel too, who realize the policies that the Likud party and Bibi are pushing are detrimental for Israel as well. Because basically Bibi has a high tolerance, in the Likud party, they have a high tolerance for chaos and for suffering, and especially the suffering of their own people, because that gives them more political power because they want the constant crisis. So I think that there's a real potential here for all this to be exposed and for, the better, good, hardworking people in both countries to prevail.
It's funny you say that. Chaos favors the op, never favors the people, and Israel's been really good at using chaos as a tool. You can go back to October 7th, which you mentioned, and 6.5 hours they had stand-down orders, do not, patrol these areas. And I know the IDF does not take 6.5 hours to respond to anything. They don't take 6.5 minutes. And in every community, you'll have IDF soldiers. So this is not a phenomenon that you can just explain away for what happened in Israel. So October 7th, how do you explain the fact that they basically let them have a free-for-all? And Bibi's talking about the fact that he funded Hamas, and he did so, to promote the country's interest. It seems as if they basically set their own people up to be in the middle of a bloodbath, so they could use it to go after countries like Iran, Lebanon, which we should never be in Lebanon. That's the most ridiculous thing ever. And so how do you explain that? How do you explain the 6.5 hours? They can't even explain it.
I'd be demanding the answers to those questions. And again, that kind of supports why staying in constant chaos would benefit whoever's going to have to eventually be accountable to those questions.
All right. Do you think that they miss? I mean, I have to ask you a election-related question, but I got to ask you this question: do you think they miss the ethos of the Middle East, the culture itself? Because you can't kill your way to submission in the Middle East. It's not possible. I mean, the Afghan people fought for 20 years, and we had nothing to show for it other than leaving behind billions of dollars of equipment. So I don't think they understand the will of the people there. That they just don't. If you kill their family, they become the next wave of terrorists. They become the next wave who will just literally hunt you to the bitter end. It's generational. It'll carry all the way down to the very end, and you can't kill enough of them in order to do it, because you'd have to kill all of them, which again goes against the idea of, or the ethos of humanity.
Yeah, I don't think there's a society out there that really you can just beat into submission. I think people have their pride and their agency. I think short of doing something like we did in World War II, you're going to get a rally around the flag effect. And this is what we long assessed about Iran. If we took out the Ayatollah, number one, the Ayatollah had a fatwa that banned them from actually developing a nuclear weapon. So him and Trump agreed on that. And this was a direct threat to the Israelis. The Israelis realized that Trump and the Ayatollah had agreed enough to get them to the negotiating table. And then they were worried about Trump's skill and desire to reach a deal. So they moved the red line, said, no, it has to be enrichment. And we kept asking and doing our own assessments within the intelligence community and with the Israelis and saying, hey, if we take out the supreme leader and we start killing the leadership, what do we think is going to happen? And everybody said, well, they're going to rally around the flag. The Iranians actually will not buckle to this. And again, the Israelis were comfortable with that degree of chaos because they
even the people that hated the Ayatollah still we're going to turn right back against, and nobody understands that. Like, you're still not attacking our country. We can hate them, we can fight them, they can kill us. But don't come into our country and do the things that you're doing right now.
Yeah, and like none of us voted for Joe Biden, but if an outsider would have attacked us during the Biden administration, you better believe all of us
100%
would have been out there, rallying around our flag, defending. Even I thought the guy was an illegitimate president, but he was still the president, so I still would have defended him. And that's just basic human nature. So when in January, when there was protests against the regime on the streets because of the economic conditions, basically we negated that by going in because there were people protesting against the regime, and there was a potential, and it probably would have taken a while, but there was a potential for the people actually to get rid of that government because they were sick and tired of being sanctioned because their government wanted to fund terrorism and do all these different things that hurt the people there in the country. But basically we went in and we started killing leadership, and now the people are like, well, I'm not going to buckle and bend to a foreign influence that's going to come in here and try and remove my leadership, by force through the barrel of a gun. So this is where I think the Israelis did a very effective job of selling President Trump a very easy formula. They said, hey, look, the protesters are out on the streets in January. All you got to do is whack a couple IRGC guys and the supreme leader, and this whole thing's going to crumble like a house of cards. It's going to be just like Venezuela. It's going to be super easy. We'll be greeted as liberators, all the same crap we heard before in Iraq. And he unfortunately took the bait, and here we are. We've killed off the moderates by and large. The Israelis have killed off a lot of the moderate leadership, so have we, unfortunately. And now what we're going to have to deal with is a much more hardened Iranian leadership to deal with that doesn't want to negotiate on nukes. They want to develop nukes. They now realize they control the Straits of Hormuz by force. So we've gotten ourselves in an exponentially worse situation than we were before.
And they couldn't even see through the tea leaves. They couldn't have predicted it, and yet it was so predictable. Matter of fact, there was analysts that were talking about that this was going to become problematic long before we even went into Iran. And for the week leading up to it, they telegraphed and signaled they were going in there, which made it even worse. I have to ask you an election integrity question, right? I've been in this fight for the last 6 years. 82% of the people in the country, 72% of the people in the country favor the SAVE Act. 82% of black and brown people favor the SAVE Act. Yet there's this congressional pushback from people on our own side, John Thune and others, to basically say that there's nothing to see here. Joe, we have more than enough data, information, proof to show that the elections are largely illegitimate and or fraudulent across the country. I've been involved with this deal for the last 6 years. I'm a system architect. I could even draw out for you how they do it. I predicted what happened in Georgia in the runoff election in 2021 before it even happened. So knowing all this information, why is there a hesitation inside of our government to take the information? Why is the people on the outside know more than the people on the inside of the government? And why is it there's a hesitation to get to a place where we can have safe and secure and transparent elections? It feels like they're doing it because they know they want to be able to control the outcome and who's in what position in Washington making the choices for the American people.
It's hard to see it in any other way. I think a lot of the elected officials, they're not out there knocking on doors and doing grassroots fundraising. A lot of them are just juiced by a lot of different super PACs. And so I think most of them rightfully fear that if there were safe and secure elections, that the PACs would lose a lot of their power, a lot of the money would lose a lot of its power, and they would lose their seats. And I think that's like probably a bipartisan thing. I would like to be a partisan here and say that's all just the Democrats. But there's Republicans, like you said, Thune, and some others who probably are the same way. If they disagree with us, then why wouldn't they pass the SAVE Act? Why wouldn't there be just a massive outpouring of support from the legislature to actually make sure that we have one person, one vote, et cetera, and it can be traced, it can be verified. But anytime you mention it, it's like a third rail of politics that talking
conspiracy
about
theories, misinformation, malinformation, right? And
And
nobody believes it.
I have
I
to.
mean, but
All right.
yeah,
I was gonna say I have to keep my word and let Joe go because
All right, Joe.
we put you out
he
here.
promised
I appreciate
15.
it,
I
guys.
kept him 30. I just wanted to say before you go, I've been interviewing you since 2021. When I first got in touch with you, I had less than 100 subscribers on Rumble. For everyone that is just, you can have your opinions about it. Hey, man, you can go back and find the videos with the timestamp on them. It's me with 3 subscribers, and we're talking about no more endless wars, securing the elections, don't have foreign influence. So that's kind of my 2 cents on that, man. And you said you were surprised at, the amount of, positive reception. My parents, who I don't think they even know social media exists, were the first ones to, they told me, like, Joe Kent just stepped down. I was like, what the
That's
like,
funny.
so, dude, more people love you than you can possibly know, and for good reason. And so, not that you need my approval, but that's my 2 cents for you. But I will let you go. I know
And
you're
your book
busy.
behind you, and the book behind you,
Yeah, send
Joe,
me.
I've read it about Shannon. Great book. That is, and I read it long before I even really knew about you. if that's a thing. So it's a great tribute. So well done.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's great to meet you. Thank you, Tommy.
Great to meet you.
Joe, as always, dude, thank you, man. So take care. Guys, thank you for watching.
Rise up untamed in the heart of the fight where the wild ones roam. Joe Oltmann's calling, bringing truth back home. From conservative daily to this untamed fire, we shatter the silence, lifting spirits higher. No chains can hold us, no lies can prevail. Authentic and fearless on this rugged trail. Patriots gather under stars and stripes. Untamed nation, igniting the night. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. Break the mold, chase the real. No more games, time to heal. Joe's voice leads the untamed crew. Truth matters through and through. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Tame nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong.